is you said illegal securities transactions, and there was nothing at all wrong with what you said there. But I just want to give some context because I think a lot of people don't really understand why society gives a shit about securities transactions and why they're so bad, right? And so first off, society loves securities transactions. We love the idea of people pooling money for a business enterprise venture. Society loves that. So securities themselves are not like an evil thing. We actually really like securities. The problem is that in the 20s, in the Great Depression kind of time, we had people out there who were just saying, yeah, I'll go make this great business. Watch, I got the carbolic smoke ball. It's going to be the next big fucking thing. And they'd fundraise all this money, and then they wouldn't actually do anything to start the business. They would just take the money and run, right? And so it's, if you think about contract law is the law of enforceable promises. When will the state use its sovereign power to enforce a promise that you made to another citizen? That's what contracts is. And securities is a very small subset of those enforceable promises, which is the promise to give you a return on your money in exchange for funding the start of my business. Like that specific promise is so important that we have a whole federal agency dedicated to it to regulate nationally. Typically, contract law is a matter of state law. This is like a kind of exception to that general rule. And so just like from that framework, first off, like in a perfect world where the ICO actually kind of follows through on its promises, like the fact that they weren't registered does make it illegal, but it's not like, it's still not the bad. It's the failure to register that's the bad things. We want like people to have to give up certain information about what they're doing, and like who can be sued if they fail to follow through. They need to file that, and that's the biggest part of what makes an illegal securities transaction illegal, is that they didn't register.
Yes, and those regulations and overhead watches were meant to protect investors, right? And investors should be happy about that setup, right? SEC. Well, listen, if I'm in an ecosystem, right? If I'm in the US, I want to make sure that if the US gets threatened, that the military is going to respond.
Yes.
Right. And so, okay, if you are a government entity and you care about your people, and I believe the US has come the closest to showing any signs of that. If you want to protect me from losing my money, if this is the system that you have set up, and if I trust you, I'm all trusting, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm down for that. Right. But within those sort of concepts and those systems, you then put human beings
right
as the overseers of those concepts and those systems. And
well,
we
right.
know
Really quickly, if we think about securities laws, the basic idea is register, give out this information, and then anyone who buys, you know what you're getting into, right? And I don't really care if you got harmed, you knew what you were getting into. Like that's the way it works. Well, the evolution of that same kind of argument, you knew what you were getting into. That's why we have accredited investor rules where, you have to make a certain amount of money or have a certain degree in order to buy stocks at all. And it's like, so you get from this good reasoning a very bad result where like now most of the workforce is cut off from investing and like making money. And that's why the rich are getting richer, because they can actually invest in these things that have high upside. The poor can't by law.
Exactly. The whole accredited investor thing is a bunch of hogwash. All right. Did I want to buy Coinbase before they IPO'd because I was already in crypto and I understood what kind of custodian they were? Are you only going to let Snoop Dogg and Nas buy it? For what reason? They're effing rappers. Okay. What's the difference between them and myself? What is the difference between Snoop Dogg and me? Okay. Absolutely nothing. What did they prove to these credit investors? Have millions of dollars. So, I am a fan of capitalism, and that sort of thing kind of goes against it. But it's all in the name of protecting investors. And again, you see, even though I'm telling the story and I'm a little bit upset about I still am respectful of authoritative figures if it's in the good of the people and you're protecting us as a whole. But what's been happening has been absolutely ridiculous, right? And so thank you for that context of securities. Thank you for the context of how that works.